I found my daughter's clothes and photos scattered all over the lawn. Her husband was dragging her by the arm, his face twisted with rage, shouting words that made my blood freeze. For a few seconds, I couldn't even breathe. My body moved before my mind did, running through the gate, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. "Let her go!" I screamed, but he didn't stop. My daughter, my sweet, quiet girl, looked so small, so helpless. And in that moment, I felt something inside me break forever. Tell me, what would you do if you saw your own child being treated like that by someone who promised to protect her? Would you stand still or would you burn the world down to save her? It's strange how quickly life can change. Just 2 years ago, I thought my daughter, Amina, had everything she ever wanted. She married a man named Sad, someone I initially believed was kind, responsible, and well-mannered. He had this polite smile that could convince anyone he was a gentleman. When he first came to meet our family, he touched my husband's feet in respect, brought sweets for everyone, and complimented me on how I'd raised such a wonderful daughter. I thought, finally, someone who will take care of her the way she deserves. Amina was glowing on her wedding day. She looked at him with so much trust, so much love. It still hurts to remember that look now. After the wedding, she moved to his house in another part of the city. In the beginning, everything seemed perfect. She'd call me almost every evening, telling me how they went out for dinner, how he surprised her with gifts, how happy she was. I'd go to bed each night thanking God that my daughter was blessed with such a loving husband. But gradually, the phone calls started coming less often. When I'd call, she'd sound distracted or tired. "Just a lot of work, Ami," she'd say. "Sad's a bit stressed with his job." I didn't want to pry. I thought maybe they were just adjusting to married life. I told myself every couple has ups and downs. The first real sign came when she visited us one weekend after almost 2 months. She was wearing long sleeves, even though it was scorching hot outside. I noticed her flinching when my husband tried to hug her. And when she bent down to take my blessings, I saw a bruise near her neck, faint but visible. What happened? I asked immediately, but she brushed it off. I slipped in the kitchen, Ami. "It's nothing." I wanted to believe her. But something about her eyes, the way she couldn't meet mine, made my stomach twist. Over the next few months, things became worse. I'd call and hear the tremor in her voice. Sometimes I'd hear Sad yelling in the background. Once, she hung up suddenly, and when I called back, her phone was switched off for 2 days. When she finally answered, she said she dropped it in water. I didn't buy it. I begged her to tell me the truth, but she insisted she was fine. "He just gets angry sometimes," she whispered once. "But he loves me, Ami. He says he can't control it when he's upset." That sentence alone told me everything I needed to know. I tried talking to my husband about it, but he kept saying, "Don't interfere in their marriage. She has to manage her home herself." That's how society works here. Everyone tells mothers not to interfere, even when their daughters are crying behind closed doors. But how could I sit back? She was my child. The little girl whose scraped knees I used to bandage, whose nightmares I used to chase away with lullabies. And now she was living one. One evening, she came home unexpectedly, holding our old photo album. She looked fragile, almost transparent, as if one strong wind could blow her away. She told me Sad had lost his job. Money was tight, and he had started drinking. He blamed her for everything. For his failures, for his family's disappointment, for every wrong turn in his life. He said marrying me ruined him, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. I held her for hours that night, wishing I could pull her pain into my own chest. I begged her to stay home, just for a while. But she said no, she didn't want to make things worse. "If I leave, he'll come for me, Ami," she whispered. I didn't know how literal that warning would turn out to be. The day it happened, it was unusually quiet. A neighbor called me, her voice trembling. "Auntie, I think something's wrong at Amina's house. I can hear shouting." I didn't even put on my slippers properly. I ran. When I reached their street, I saw things I'll never forget. My daughter's clothes, her photographs, her wedding dupatta, all thrown across the lawn like garbage. And there she was, crying, trying to pull her arm away while Saad kept dragging her toward the gate. His voice was hoarse with anger. "You think you can embarrass me? You think you can run to your mommy every time you don't like something?" He shouted. I screamed for him to stop, but he turned on me too. "This is between husband and wife?" he barked. "Stay out of it, old woman." I didn't stay out of it. I ran forward, grabbed Amina, and pushed him back. For a moment, he looked shocked, like he couldn't believe anyone would dare touch him. Then he raised his hand at me. That was the moment a few neighbors rushed over, hearing the commotion. Someone called the police. I don't remember everything clearly, just flashes. My daughter sobbing in my arms, Saad cursing and yelling, the blue lights flashing across the lawn. The police took him away that night. They said it was domestic dispute, as if those words could ever capture the horror of what I saw. When we got home, Amina was silent, completely silent. She sat in her old bedroom, staring at the wall, holding one of her wedding photos that she'd picked up from the grass. "I thought he loved me," she whispered. "He used to say he couldn't live without me." I didn't know what to say. What do you tell a daughter whose dreams have been crushed by the very person she trusted most? Days turned into weeks. We filed a report, but his family tried to pressure us to drop it. They said he was just under stress. They even came to our home with gifts, begging forgiveness. I wanted to throw everything they brought back in their faces. My husband stayed quiet, caught between shame and anger. He couldn't look at our daughter without tears welling up. She refused to eat for days, barely spoke to anyone. Every time the phone rang, she'd flinch, afraid it was him. So that's where I was, watching my daughter fade away, while the world around us pretended it was just another marital problem. And I had to decide what to do. Should I let her heal slowly and quietly, or should I fight back publicly, knowing the whispers that would follow? Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and think. If you were me, what would you have done? Would you risk your family's reputation to protect your child's dignity, or would you keep silent and hope time would erase the scars? I couldn't stay silent. The next morning, I went to the police station myself. I made sure the report was filed properly. I brought every photo, every text message she'd saved, every piece of proof. When Saad's family tried to bribe the officers, I stood my ground. It took weeks, but finally, he was charged with domestic violence. The court hearings were exhausting, humiliating even. His lawyer tried to paint my daughter as emotional, unstable, overreacting. But each time she stood there, trembling yet unbroken, I felt proud. My little girl had become stronger than any of them imagined. The hardest moment came when the judge asked her if she wanted to reconcile. I'll never forget how she looked up, her eyes filled with tears but her voice steady, and said, "No. I want to live." That sentence broke me all over again, but this time with pride instead of pain. She walked out of that courtroom a survivor, not just of his violence, but of the silence that society tries to force on women like her. It took months for her to smile again. The first time she laughed, it was while baking with me in the kitchen, covered in flour. It was such a small, silly moment, but I had tears in my eyes. Slowly, she started painting again, something she used to love before marriage. Her paintings were different now, darker at first, then brighter, full of color and hope. One day she told me, "I don't want to be defined by what he did to me, Amy. I want to help other women like me." And she did. She began volunteering at a shelter for domestic violence victims, telling her story to give others courage. But even as life moved forward, I can't pretend the pain disappeared. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, remembering that image. Her clothes scattered, her body being dragged, her voice pleading. It's something no mother should ever have to see. Yet, through all of it, I've learned something important. Love without respect is just another form of prison. When people hear our story, some say I was brave. Others say I should have stayed out of it, that I've ruined a marriage. But I know in my heart that I did what any mother would do. You can rebuild a broken reputation, but you can't bring back a broken child. Amina still has scars on her arms, some visible, some not, but she carries them like medals of survival now. She teaches art classes to women who are trying to find their voices again. And every time I watch her speak, I think of how close I came to losing her that day. If there's one thing I wish people would understand, it's that abuse doesn't always start with bruises. It starts with control, with silence, with fear. It starts when a woman begins to apologize for things she didn't do, when she walks on eggshells just to keep someone else calm. I ignored the small signs at first because I didn't want to believe my daughter could be in that kind of situation. But denial only protects the abuser. I wish I'd acted sooner. Now, whenever I see a mother dismissing her daughter's pain, saying, "These things happen in every marriage," I tell her our story. I tell her what happens when you wait too long. My daughter almost lost her life because we kept hoping things would get better. They never do. Not with people who believe love is ownership. Sometimes, late at night, I sit on our porch and look up at the stars, remembering the little girl who used to fall asleep in my lap, clutching her teddy bear. I still see that innocence in her, even after everything. I see her strength too. And I thank God every single day that she came back to me alive. So, if you're watching this, and you've ever doubted whether you should step in when someone you love is being hurt, don't wait. Don't hope it will fix itself. Don't let fear of gossip or judgment stop you. Because the day I found my daughter's clothes and photos scattered across that lawn, I realized one truth that will stay with me forever: silence can kill. Thank you for listening to my story. If you felt my pain, if you believe I did the right thing, please like this video and share it so others might find the courage to speak up too. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were in my place? Would you have stayed silent, or would you have fought back no matter the cost? I'll be reading your thoughts. And if you want to hear more real stories like this, about love, loss, and survival, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you all in the next story.